Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way. And it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York. And now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Arvil Reese at 8%. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea who that is or if they're playing a joke on me, Joe.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Who is that?
Here, but I have no idea.
You even know?
But no idea. But don't you have to pick the Heisman winner, Donnie? Isn't that like the rule of thumb if you're going to take a quarterback? Is he not the best quarterback?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Hour number 2 officially underway right here as we wait for the new year, which tomorrow is New Year's Eve, then followed by New Year's Day. A lot of really good college football on the way. 3 bowl games today, 5 more tomorrow, which includes a college football playoff, and 3 college football playoff games on the first of the month. 2026 is almost here. It's absolutely incredible, Joe. The energy is high as always. The information that we need to get out to the people will be there at the end of this hour. We'll give some best bets out to the people to try to make some money on, and also ask you a question on where you're going in a Fade the Public poll. But before we get there, Joe, a lot of info has got to get out there to the people. We'll deliver. We will.
Yeah, we always do, Donnie, and no better way here as we get ready to say goodbye to 2025 and welcome in 2026. A lot of football still left to be played here over the next month.
2026 also a lot of college basketball left to be played before we get to the Final Four and also crown a champion, which John Calipari, who, correct me if I'm wrong, was an innovator in college basketball that most people didn't want. He's like, you know what? I don't want any 4-year players. I want the best, the cream of the crop, the one and dones. Let's do this and see if we can bastardize college basketball. Now he's upset because other people are trying to bastardize it as well. What's he talking about here? Let's get a clip from Cal.
Well, look, I don't blame coaches. I've got friends that are playing with 27-year-olds and they feel bad. I said, don't feel bad. We don't have any rules. Why should you feel bad? But let me give you this. Real simple. The rules be's the rules. So if you put your name in the draft, I don't care if you're from Russia and you stay in the draft, you can't play college basketball. Well, that's only for American kids. What? If your name is in that draft and you got drafted, you can't play because that's our rule. Yeah, but that's only for American kids. Okay, now, here's the next lawsuit. Well, we don't have a say over European players. You do if they're playing in college basketball. So that means you don't have a say over high school kids. So whatever a high school kid does before he comes here, don't you do one thing because there's a suit. Because what you're saying is, if he's in Europe, we don't have the same rules. What?
Yep. Here's what Cal's right about. Imagine a world where, Joe, you graduated high school, and they gave you 5 total years to play 4 years of college athletics. If you're injured, you get a year back. If you don't play your freshman year, you get a year back as well. Once you play 1 minute of one part of a season, you are now ineligible to play a 6th year in college basketball. Where did we get away from the rules that made so much sense now to we have no rules whatsoever?
Yeah, none. And that's it, Donnie. And that's basically what it's come down to here is that it feels like they're making it up as they go along. And now the NCAA is so worried about lawsuits all over the place that they refuse. They wash their hands of it and say, listen, it's the wild, wild west. Enjoy yourself. And hopefully the coaches and the university. No, the coaches are there to win. Cal is absolutely correct. You have one set of rules for one set of kids and another set of rules for another set of. It's total chaos, and they got nobody to blame but themselves.
You're exactly right about this. The rules were so easy. And also, I understand, hey, well, coaches leave and stuff like that. The best rule that we have wasn't 4 years or 5 years to play 4. It was, yeah, you're allowed to transfer. But you know what? You will sit out. That stopped a lot of movement because kids just don't want to burn a full year of practicing and say,
That's
you know
correct.
what? Hey, coach, I'll work a little bit harder and I'll get myself into the rotation next year. I'm fine. I'll stay right here. Bring back those rules. College sports will be so much better, but they're not. They're just going completely off the rails now. Let's get to the early lineup, the hottest topics in the sports landscape, which includes Lamar Jackson. Yo, Lamar, you playing this weekend? Win the division, go to the playoffs and get a home game? Or is it, I already checked out, and it feels like, Joe, referendum time. This could be Lamar's last game as a Raven, whether he plays or not. If they win, does he sit out the playoffs? What happens?
A lot of stories circulating about there being not a good situation between the coaching staff and Lamar right now. But this is not new news either, Donnie, because we've had this over the last couple of seasons. And listen, even when he was healthy in years past, what has he got, some sort of spotless playoff record that I missed? I mean, it's unbelievable how that locker room has stayed together as long as they have, because if the coaches are like, you can play, like, what are you doing? And he's like, I can't. How is that playing in the locker room right now, Donnie?
Yeah, exactly. It's unbelievable where we've seen this before where he wasn't really playing with that knee injury because the Ravens weren't going to pay him, and him and Harbaugh were at odds. Now it seems like they are again, where you should be hearing that Lamar Jackson is scraping and clawing every single moment to get out there. We don't hear anything. It's radio silence. We don't even get updates on if he was going to play last night until, yep, he's inactive. I guess he's not playing. It's pretty wild seeing for a quarterback at the top end here of the payroll and also of his playing. Just not getting much information back. Zachary Reese-Sachet, hey, he was the number 1 pick. And the Hawks are like, this guy stinks. Anybody want him at this point, Joe? Think he gets moved?
Well, I think there's about to be a fire sale in Atlanta, and it's not just going to be him. I think it's time, Donnie. It's not working, and they're probably 2 years late here. So it doesn't shock me at all that this is what we're hearing coming out of the Hawks.
Yeah, Trae Young also probably going to move on. But by the way, put up that graphic once again on Reese-Sachet, because I want to read what it said at the bottom of this report to you, Joe. And you let me know if we're going to make the same mistake again. Atlanta has shown interest in Anthony Davis. End quote right there.
Yeah.
Joe, please.
Isn't that great?
Please, what's going on?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. You can have Anthony Davis on the bench because he's not going to be healthy enough to play. I'm sure that'll affect the game. And that's, the difference between good organizations and terrible organizations are front and center right now.
Exactly. And how about this? Anthony Joshua, we brought that to you live. A crash in Nigeria, which had 2 fatalities. Looks like Joshua's going to be okay. Flown back to Europe to get him checked out fully. Just an odd story overall that broke really virally yesterday morning.
The more I looked into the story, the less I understand. It just feels like we're missing something. Yeah, I mean, accidents can happen anyway, but the accident happening in Nigeria the way it did, and then he gets ushered out to Europe to go to the hospital. This is all very, and he just $100 million he just he cashed for the Netflix fight. Something is not right here.
I'll tell you what's not right in Vegas, and no, it's not the slot machines or the craps table or 000 roulette. It's actually their head coach, Pete Carroll, probably going to be out after the season. What a mess it was. They tried to put Band-Aids on that franchise when they should have been doing a full heart surgery. Now it looks like they're going to get the cancer out at the end of the year, and that cancer could be Pete Carroll.
I don't know that it is. It's just, this is not his first rodeo. Davis isn't bringing the reason, the Davis family brought him in to begin with is because he will likely do whatever it is they want him to do. I don't see them bringing in, and again, who you going with if you're taking him out? I mean, you're going to have the number one pick. I don't know what you think you're going to get, but I think Pete Carroll's there at least for another year.
By the way, you brought in Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's like, oh, let's win now. Congratulations. Your draft picks don't work out. Your player signings don't work out. Your head coach didn't work out. Neither did your quarterback. Back to square one. Thanks, Tom Brady. Go call another game on Fox Sports here. Justin Herbert, not starting against the Broncos. Probably a good decision because that pocket's going to collapse. You're already in the playoffs. Give the kid an extra week to get that hand healthy here. He'll sit out, which means Broncos going to win the number one overall seed in the AFC.
Yeah, kind of crazy, isn't it? But that's exactly what we're looking at right now here. And listen, Herbert deserves a day off. I made the case that maybe this guy has done more with less all year and made it to the playoffs. Give him a little MVP consideration here, will you?
How about that? How about MVP consideration in the future for Bijan Robinson? He was the MVP last night, amassing over 200 yards of total offense, a couple touchdowns as they upset the Rams, who were 7-point favorites heading into that Monday Night Football game.
Kind of crazy. I think he also broke, if I'm not mistaken, he broke a record for the amount of yards from scrimmage for a 23, 24-year-old? Pretty impressive.
Big college football games on deck. Playoffs? Let's talk about them next.
The Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Arvil Reese at 8%. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea who that is or if they're playing a Joe Coleman show.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Who is that?
Here, but I have no idea.
You need to know?
But no idea. But don't you have to pick the Heisman winner, Donnie? Isn't that like the rule of thumb if you're going to take a quarterback? Is he not the best quarterback?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Staying at a good job or getting a better job. Sometimes people weigh that each and every day, and it happens in the NFL and collegiate athletics as well. Yesterday, Joe, we had a tweet from Marcus Freeman that's like, you know what? Let's run this back. Hashtag Go Irish, which he's returning back to the Irish. And why not? A super soft schedule, cherry-picked every single year. Championship expectations, there are none at Notre Dame. They never win championships here. Heisman Trophy winners, they don't get those either. But apparently, it's a great job to have. Enough to not choose a team like the New York Giants, which I didn't know if that would be the perfect fit. But usually coaches, when they get the chance to jump to the NFL, it's massive because you don't have to recruit every single day. You get to the pros, you know who your team is, you get a big paycheck, and away you go. Marcus Freeman is going to stay at Notre Dame. And by the way, can't fault him. That's a pretty cush job with not a lot of expectations or pressure from me, Joe.
No, I mean, listen, we know the Giants had a lot of had a lot of interest in him. That name kept coming up here. But, like every other smart college coach at an established program did, the minute these jobs become available, they use it as leverage for a new contract. And that's exactly what he did. So kudos to him. I wouldn't leave that job anytime soon. You already got the committee in your back pocket, so you don't have to join anything. And from moving forward, you're always going to be in the college football playoffs. So why leave?
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It could be like, you usually say like, okay, Alabama's a great job because you got a chance to win championships, or if you can resuscitate Miami or Florida, it's a great job to have. Notre Dame's the perfect job. Easy schedule every year with low expectations. And if you just win at a decent clip here, and now you have the advantage on your side that no other team in the country has, that you have basically automatically voted in if you have a 500 record, it feels like, to the college football playoff. Absolute no-brainer to stay there. Eventually, Joe, he will be an NFL coach, but to stay at Notre Dame is the right move, and you're right about this. You just have to, I don't know where the leverage comes from, where if you're a college football coach and a single job opens up at Division II somewhere, that everybody in the country automatically gets a brand new contract so they don't go to the Division II team. That's just the way it feels right now. But Marcus Freeman staying, no surprise here. This is a feud that's kind of interesting here, which deals with Notre Dame. Notre Dame and USC not going to play. Lincoln Riley says it's Notre Dame's fault. Notre Dame says it's their fault here, and away we go. Does anybody actually care if Notre Dame and USC do play? Because they're angry at each other, Joe, in the press at least.
Yeah, I mean, Lincoln Riley taking shots left and right at him. But again, I mean, if you're Notre Dame and you already know that the understanding is, I just win your games. Why schedule a re-up on a USC team that could very well beat you every year? Might as well just schedule, Marist or something along those lines instead. Write a check and get a win.
Strength of schedule does not matter anymore. And quite frankly, if you are Notre Dame, don't play anybody hard. Like, you can probably play and say, you know what, that agreement they have with the ACC, let's play 6 games or whatever it is. Do that with the MAC. And then do it with like the Mountain West. And there's your schedule right there. You run undefeated every single year and you're in the college football playoff. That's the new wave of things of how to get it done. And hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. If Notre Dame's like, hey, USC's pretty good and they're looking back on the uptrend, let's get out of that. Notre Dame did that back in the 1980s and early 1990s. We just don't think this Miami series is healthy. Why? Because they were beating your brains in finally after you slugging them all throughout the 60s and 70s. Fun stuff here, the way it certainly plays out. But we do have major college football on the horizon. Miami, Ohio State. 7:30 p.m. Eastern on New Year's Eve, and a 9.5-point favorite here towards Ohio State, and a 41.5 total. Seems pretty low down in Jerry World. I can't wait for these games to start, and we're close, Joe. Roughly 24 hours away or so. Love it.
Yeah, and this is again this matchup to kick it off the playoffs is going to be absolutely tremendous because it's going to be strength on strength. You got two very good offenses. You've got, wide receivers on both sides that are going to be playing in the NFL. You've got a more experienced quarterback on Miami. Both defenses have been, they're top 5 in the country here. So, yeah, I'm having a hard time getting over the 9.5, Donnie. I really am. And the idea that, and the only reason I keep hearing people bring up that you can't pick Miami, you got to lay it with Ohio State, is because of Mario Cristobal. Listen, Mario Cristobal's not playing in this game. And this is a very experienced Miami team. So, sometimes you got to put all of that crazy. Nobody thought he was going to win in Pittsburgh. Nobody thought he was going to go on the road and beat Elko in A&M. But guess what? So the whole Mario Cristobal thing, throw it out. On the field, is Ohio State really 10 points better than the University of Miami, you have to ask?
3 games, Joe, we're going to have on New Year's Day, which is usually bowl day. Like, you get a ton of bowl games here. But I do like the fact that they sort of paved the way for us. 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. Oregon's going to take on Texas Tech. Alabama, Indiana, Ole Miss, and Georgia. When I look at those lines, Joe, where the ticket count is, it honestly looks like the sharpest play on the board just might be Indiana. Roughly 25% of the ticket count, opening line at 6.5, Joe. Now we're seeing 7.5 and 7 in the marketplace for the Rose Bowl here. I think that game's fascinating, but all 4 of these games should be fun to watch. The big boys here, they deserve to be there, and they're lining up. But that Alabama-Indiana game, kind of interesting to me.
I don't understand the line, Donnie. Let's. I mean, if we think about it, the market had Alabama 1.5, getting 1.5 against Georgia on a neutral site.
Yeah.
Now you're telling me you're telling me that Indiana is what, 6 points better than Georgia is on a neutral site? I do not understand this line whatsoever. We're getting to the point where Indiana is becoming that big time trendy play for just about everybody in the public.
Should be interesting to see this thing play out as it goes forward, because that is a great game. I guess I am going to yell and scream at the 8 o'clock start for Ole Miss and Georgia, but it is what it is. 6.5 point line there. 2 SEC teams going at it. But I think, I'm a Miami fan, so of course I'm going to be invested in a Miami versus Ohio State. But the most intriguing game, forget about the lines and the 2 teams going up against each other, Joe, that's Oregon and that's Texas Tech. I am so intrigued by that football game, how it turns out. I wouldn't be surprised if either team won or either team actually ran away with a double-digit victory.
Listen, and the reason that this line is where it's at, Don, is because the market knows, too, this is going to be a slugfest. And there is no real clear advantage, I think, for either of these teams. Texas Tech has been the underdog all year. Nobody's talked about them. We've all talked about Oregon. Oh, put up or shut up time. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Look, great games on New Year's Day. Fantastic. We absolutely love that. But we got to get to some of those predictive markets that include the NFL next.
Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carden Show, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Arvil Reese at 8%. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea who that is or if they're playing a joke on me, Joe.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Who is that?
Here, but I have no idea.
Do you even know?
But no idea. But don't you have to pick the Heisman winner, Donnie? Isn't that like the rule of thumb? If you're going to take a quarterback, is he not the best quarterback?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Predictive markets here. We love to talk about them. Specifically, we have great topics, and we are heading into Week 18 of the NFL season. It's Donnie Red Side. It's Joe Ranier on your Tuesday morning right here on the SportsGrid Network and the Early Line. It's up in the air. It really is. Denver, New England, Buffalo, Houston, Jacksonville. Maybe it's Baltimore. Maybe it's the Steelers. Is it the Chargers who are going to be resting their quarterback this week to make sure he's fully healthy for the playoff run? The favorites at Kalshi in the predictive market today for the AFC Championship winner, it's the Denver Broncos at 24%. They're actually up 3%, rightfully so, because why? We thought they'd probably get a pretty good punch from the Chargers, but now the Chargers might be looking at this game as a bye week heading into Week 18 before they get to the playoffs, therefore handing the Denver Broncos the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. So, Joe, I'm going to ask you this question. Denver looks like they will be the number 1 overall seed. Is that enough to get them to the Super Bowl and betting it? Because if you think they're going to win the AFC, a $100 wager pays back $417.
Listen, it ain't. I wouldn't be. Let's wait to see what happens. We've seen stranger things happen here. Because let's face it, New England, if they are they going to beat Miami early on Sunday? If they do, they're very much in the conversation, and then have to watch what Denver does there against Trey Lance and the Chargers. I don't know that I'd be throwing the towel in just yet here, but I will say this. If Denver, and I think Denver, and we've said it all along, Donnie, I think they benefit the most from having home field advantage in the AFC. Having it have to go through Denver to get to the Super Bowl, I think is absolutely advantage to the Broncos.
You know what's crazy, too, about the AFC? Because usually it's Kansas City. And we like to ask the question like, well, who's the trusted team that's sort of been there, done that? Denver? New England? Absolutely not. It seems like it's the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, but he's never won an AFC championship, and he's also going to be on the road in the AFC playoffs. Then there's Houston. You trust in that offensive line and C.J. Stroud. Jacksonville, who looks like they are red hot at the right time, but again, it's still Jacksonville. I love the looks here in the AFC, and maybe it just comes down to I have home field advantage all throughout with a great home field advantage, which Denver actually has, and how it plays out. But I do find it fascinating. You can take teams all the way up and down. Like Jacksonville is 15%. A $100 wager on Jacksonville returned back $667. It's wide open in the AFC for sure, Joe.
Absolutely anybody's game. It really is. Jacksonville's interesting. Any given Sunday, Donnie, in the AFC, it doesn't feel like there is a clear, any sort of clear, not like what you would have with Kansas City. If they were in it, we'd all be going, yeah, who are we kidding? It's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Well, they're not there anymore. So, and Buffalo has never done it. So what? It's anybody's game in the AFC.
Yeah. Eagles had 11 wins on the football season right now, heading into the last week. Now, on the predictive markets, the question is being asked, can the Eagles go over 11.5 wins? Yes is 89 cents. No is 25 cents. The chance of it here, 83%, which is actually up 46%. The reason being is that they take on the Washington Commanders to end the season. It looks like the Eagles might be playing their starters. Now, the rule summary does state, Joe, if the Philadelphia pro football team has more than 11 wins in the 2025-6 regular season, then the market resolves to yes. That's the key indicator. Not like, well, yeah, if they lose this weekend, they win a playoff game, you got it. No. It comes down to the final game. Do you think the Eagles beat the Commanders? Yes or no is what they're asking.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, keep in mind that game opened up, look ahead, 12.5 for Philadelphia. Yeah. It's down to 7.5, Donnie, in spots. So what does that mean? How many people are sitting out for Philadelphia? And does it matter? Because who exactly is going to play quarterback for Washington again? Johnson? Like what are we? Yeah, I think the Eagles, even with the backups, and I think Tanner McGee is going to be the best quarterback on the field if they do sit Jalen Hurts. But it feels like, Donnie, we may get the starters at least for a little while in that game, long enough for them to be able to pull away, I think, in the second half. So I like the yes in that one.
That's the question. To be honest, I don't think the Eagles starters play, but I think Tanner McKee can actually beat the Washington Commanders. And also, make sure you wait on that line, too, because if the Eagles are announcing, like, Barkley's not going to play and Jordan Mailata's not going to play, that line's going to drop really low at that point here for a legitimate chance to win. That we'll find out the way it goes at this point. Defensive Player of the Year. And we're not talking about here in the NFL and the NBA. Chet Holmgren, 39%. Victor Wembanyama, he's back 36%, Joe. Who gets it done, Holmgren or Wemby?
Oh, I think Wemby for sure, especially since he's 3-0 against Chet at this point. No?
Yeah. If we go with If we go with Wemby, Joe, 36 cents, $100 pays back $278. Seems like a two-man race. Down the list we go. By the way, two-man race. Joe and Donnie, we're running a race. We're way ahead of the public, people. Those NFL games this weekend.
The Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way. And it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York. And now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
Arvil Reese at 8%. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea who that is or if they're playing a joke on me, Joe.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting
Who is that?
here, but I have no idea.
Do you even know?
But no idea. But don't you have to pick the Heisman winner, Donnie? Isn't that like the rule of thumb if you're going to take a quarterback? Is he not the best quarterback?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, interesting ball club here. Baker Mayfield at quarterback, plethora of wide receivers, Bucky Irving at running back, Todd Bowles as your defensive coordinator, head coach. Looked like they would easily win this division, 7 or 8 weeks ago. Then they decided to go, I believe, Joe, 1-7 down the stretch, which they win one more game there. They just walk away in the playoffs, and away they go. They weren't able to get it done. But understand this. The Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will play at 4:30 p.m. on Saturday, East Coast time. That line opened up around 3.5. It now sits at 2.5 at most outlets with a total around 44.5. We were led to believe all along that, hey, Carolina, Tampa Bay, doesn't matter. The winner of this game is going to win that division and move on. No longer the case. Why? Because the Atlanta Falcons want to continue to win football games, and they could mess up the actual algorithm of who actually wins tiebreakers. Ari Mirov last night tweeted out after the game where the Atlanta Falcons had upset the Los Angeles Rams. The Panthers-Bucks game on Saturday is no longer a win and in game for Tampa Bay. Even if the Bucks win this game, the Panthers would still take the division if the Falcons beat the Saints on Sunday, which could realistically happen. Amazing stuff here now, Joe. Look at that. The Falcons holding the cards on the NFC South.
Donnie, the whole NFC South is the weirdest thing I have ever seen in my life. You have the Falcons sitting at 7-9, who are going to take on the 6-10 Saints. Both of them are eliminated from playoff contention, yet both, Donnie, I can make the argument, are better football teams right now than the Buccaneers and the Panthers, and that both of those teams would be better off in the playoffs than either the Bucs or the Panthers in this one. It is the absolute weirdest thing, but listen, it won't matter. Carolina wins Saturday, then there's not a whole lot of juice. But how lucky is the NFL? Again, they just lucked their way into more chaos that could possibly happen here heading into week 18, a week in which we all shrug our shoulder and be like, what, this is just awful. And yet here we go. More chaos, more possibilities of chaos. They just keep lucking into this with that Falcons win last night as a 7.5-point dog. They have just completely turned it all upside down. Now we have to watch these awful games, Donnie.
No, we do, and it's pretty incredible. And also, as I told you, like a realistic scenario. Like sometimes, like, well, then if the Chargers with all their backups beat Denver, like, that's not going to happen. Did you know Atlanta is on a win streak here? Atlanta doesn't even have to go to New Orleans. Atlanta will be home next week against the New Orleans Saints. Atlanta is a 3-point favorite over the New Orleans Saints. So Carolina theoretically could go into that game on Saturday night like, oh, we got beat 21-0. So what? Watch Atlanta handle our business for us. Crazy times, as Joe pointed out here. And that's what happens in the NFL. Some nonsense scenarios pop up. This looks like it could be one of those nonsense scenarios. Not a nonsense scenario. At night on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Seattle traveling to take on San Francisco. Supremacy on the line. The winner will get the number 1 overall seed and the division championship. The loser will be banished. Still getting into the playoffs, but into the wild card round. Look at this line movement, Joe. The opening numbers had San Francisco as the favorite. As of yesterday, those lines have officially flipped. The Seattle Seahawks and Sam Darnold, 1.5-point favorites and a total of 49.5. I got to tell you, I don't think San Francisco's defense is worth anything. But San Francisco's offense is extremely good. And maybe they're getting back their most valuable weapon in their tight end, George Kittle, at least in the passing game. Still going to have McCaffrey there, who took a lot of hits and a lot of wear and tear in that last game. But Seattle, Shaheed, concussion last week. Does he go this week? Sam Darnold in big games. We question him a lot, Joe. Do we agree with the line movement that now you get the favorite for Seattle?
Well, I get why the line is moving that way, because I think, Donna, you nailed it there, right? I think the public is looking at this defense of the 49ers and going, absolutely not, can't be trusted. But I can make the argument that for as much as you may not trust this 49ers defense, how much faith do you have in Sam Darnold in a big game for the winner take all? Like, what? Are you so confident in the offense of Seattle to take it? Because if this turns in, and it's not like we haven't seen this Seahawks team in shootouts, the 49ers are built to give up points, yes, but they're also built to drop 40 on everybody, including Seattle. So I wouldn't necessarily run and be like, oh, yeah, Sam Darnold and that defense of Seattle. Styles make fights. I don't know that this is a great matchup for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, you're right. Like on different circumstances, I would always go with Seattle, but something still trips me up and says, I'm going to get the much better defense. My offense should be able to make just enough plays, but then it's still Seattle and it's still on the road, and they played on the road last week. It's a short work week this week. You might be down a wide receiver, and we've seen some chaos in the series as is. Should be a fun game to watch. That's the primetime game on a Saturday night. How about the Cowboys and the Giants on Sunday? Now, you might say to yourself, Dak Prescott, they've announced, is playing. It doesn't mean Dak Prescott's playing a full 4 quarters, so maybe it comes in with Milton. But if you're the Giants, you won last week, and sometimes getting those wins for the locker room and moving forward is important. I don't think it is. You should have been tanking getting that first overall pick. Now, granted, you do have your quarterback. Well, Donnie, it's not a big deal if they drop down to 5. Yes, it is. You have your quarterback stay at number 1, trade for an absolute king's ransom for that number 1 pick and rebuild that football team. They can't do it again, Joe, can they? Can the Giants win again on Sunday and even plummet further down the board on the draft? Or are they just going to throw in the towel? The question for me is, what are we actually getting from the Cowboys and how much they care about traveling north in the cold? And also, Joe, one of the more notorious surfaces in the NFL that's known to take some knees with it.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I think the last simulator had the Raiders entering week 18 with about 77% chance of getting the number 1. The only other team that has a shot is the Giants, and they have them somewhere around 23% to win it. So if the Giants lose and somehow the Raiders win, boy, that's going to get very interesting. But the reality is, it looks like the Giants from last week's effort, there are guys still playing extremely hard. There are guys still Jackson Dart is still trying to get the reps. They're still playing him. I'm kind of with you with Dallas. I don't know what we're going to, especially defensively, what are we going to get from Dallas? And they're not going to play Quinnen Williams. I mean, who are we kidding? And I'm not sure how long Dak or Perkins or any of those guys or CeeDee Lamb will be playing in this game. So I think it is advantage Giants, as crazy as it is. Plus, it's Cowboys-Giants. Isn't that always a crazy game?
Yeah, and also, we just don't know. Like, coach speak is one thing. Like, yeah, Dak's playing. Dak could play the first quarter. Also understand this, too.
Right.
Like, we're going to talk probably a little bit later in the week on, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills don't really have that big of a meaningful game. They're favored by 12.5. It's down to 7.5. Josh Allen, they're going to say he plays. Do you know why he's going to play, Joe? He did it last year. To keep his starting streak intact. Comes in the game, takes a snap, hands off, leaves the football game at that point. You're going to get that. Like, I told you the starters were playing, but like a preseason game, they might get a series or two, if that here. Always something to keep an eye on, which talks about the Chargers and the Broncos. This lines up to 11.5 and 12.5. Why? Trey Lance is starting quarterback, not your starter in Herbert, and probably a lot of other starters will be down for the Chargers as well, therefore handing over the number 1 seed and the division to the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, you expect it, right? Nothing is gained by the Chargers playing Herbert in this spot. Hopefully, they'll be able to get a little healthier there on the offensive line and make a push for the postseason. And kudos to Denver catching a big break, right? That's the game means nothing to the Chargers. So now they're going to sit their best player and their quarterback, and now you have a leg up. But I'd be careful. You know, they were supposed to bulldoze the Kansas City Chiefs and a guy they had signed off the street, but you barely won that one. So I'd be very careful here, Denver. This is a trap spot for sure.
News and nuggets also coming out. We talked about that Philadelphia Eagles game. We talked about in the Kalshi markets. Can they get that win this weekend? 8.5's out there, Joe. I'm seeing now the blinking of the Christmas tree lights. A lot of options now down to 6.5. Why? The expectation from a beat writer in Philadelphia on the radio this morning said his takeaway is Tanner McKee's probably going to start, which means the backups will be in that football game. Nothing official, but the speculation of these marketplaces certainly going to change. And also, don't remember Dan Quinn saying, we'll see them in week 18. What does that mean? Next, you're going to win a football game in Philadelphia, meaningless? We'll find out.
Yes.
We got action coming up next. Mr. Kaufman joins the show. Come on back.
The Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
Arvil Reese at 8%. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea who that is or if they're playing a joke on me, Joe.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Who is that?
Here, but I have no idea.
You even know?
But no idea. But don't you have to pick the Heisman winner, Donnie? Isn't that like the rule of thumb? If you're going to take a quarterback, is he not the best quarterback?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Tuesday morning on the grid, no better place to be than right here, right now, getting you ready for the new year coming up, which tomorrow, a lot of bowl games today. Then we have the college football playoffs, but a really interesting NFL week number 18. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Joe Ranieri. Now we bring in Adam Kaufman sitting there in Boston. And I saw yesterday a tweet come out, which I felt this pain before. Ooh, we got a chance at the top seed overall. And the team you need help from goes like, yeah, we don't care about that at all, Adam. Welcome to Week 18 in the NFL. Love to have you here.
Yeah, it's an interesting week with a lot on the line, obviously. Yeah. A lot of these teams jockeying around for seeding. Clearly, there are some teams with very important games trying to win their respective divisions just to get into the playoffs. My Patriots, as you noted, as I sit here in the greater Boston area, are not going to have, obviously, the best opportunity to jump up and overcome the Denver Broncos and win that number 1 overall seed simply because the Chargers have said, screw it, this game doesn't matter. We don't really need it at this point in time, so Justin Herbert's not going to play. We'll see who else sits, although I do wonder if the Broncos kind of respond accordingly and sit some guys as well, or if they say, no. We're focused on that number 1 overall seed. We want that first round bye. We're not taking any chances. But obviously, Broncos, Chargers, Patriots, Dolphins, that game is at the same time. They're both in that late window that Joe and I here will be on SportsGrid monitoring a lot of those outcomes along the way and keeping pace, keeping track of what does happen. But yeah, it does make you wonder which teams are going to sit which guys versus play and actually go for something. I just want to know, though, if Joe here is ready to concede after last night and that meltdown by the Rams and Matt Stafford with the 3 interceptions of Drake May is if he's ready to crown Drake May the National Football League most valuable player yet, or if he's still holding out hope that his guy's going to get it, because now we're looking at minus 475 going into Week 18.
Yeah, no, it's, I mentioned it on Caffeinated Joe to start the show, Adam. I'll send you a copy of it.
Please.
Kudos to Drake May. Unbelievable season. Way to really beat the street players that the Jets had on the field last week. Outstanding stuff. But there's one real MVP in the league. If we're talking about truly the most valuable to a team,
sure.
Tell me who's
Jalen
more
Hurts?
valuable than Justin Herbert.
Than Justin Herbert? Herbert's not even in the conversation.
Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. Tell me who is done more with less, Drake May or Justin Herbert?
Drake May, without a question. That's an actual debate? Am I getting punked? Ladd McConkey, Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston, obviously, a solid defense on the other side, but if we're going to fixate purely on the offense, you want to say it's a loaded division. Are we going to
glance over the fact that he has been absolutely under duress, has played with a broken hand, still won 11 games, and had no offensive line all year?
The Patriots haven't had an offensive line for half the season as well, right? Due to all their injuries.
Right.
Who's the number 1 receiver?
Because they've played the Jets, and it hasn't mattered,
number 1 overall receiver? The corpse of Steph Diggs? Mac Hollins?
Yeah.
Keyshawn Booty?
No.
A rookie running back?
When you play JV schedules. That's what happens when you play a JV schedule. You can get away with that when you play a JV schedule. You're not going to do that when you're
we
playing.
Can't do anything.
Yeah.
I thought I was coming in here thinking you were going to give me this X, Y, and Z about staff. I was not prepared for Justin Herbert. I am looking at the MVP
and you're
odds
still
on
telling me
FanDuel
that
right
Drake
now.
May has done more with less, huh?
I thought this was a betting show. Drake May is minus 475 to win this award. Justin Herbert, and don't get me wrong, I know that humans vote on this, so it's not all about the algorithm and the math and all of that. How many zeros are there? Justin Herbert is what? 50,000 to 1 to win this award? You got 9 guys in front of him? Oh, please. You know what? Yeah. Good. I'll give you $10 and you throw that down on Justin Herbert to win MVP. But you got to give me the $10 back when it loses.
All right.
Another network.
See when Stafford wins it anyway.
Let's embrace debate. We love the debate. We love it. See the energy coming to Joe's getting a double shot of caffeinated action. As soon as you heard him saying, I'm going to get those flowers, like, ooh, Joe's probably got something up his sleeve right now. Before we get more talk on Drake May, let's take a look at Vrabel here. How about Vrabel, the MVP? What's he think? Let's see.
Mike, when you could process that Drake threw 5 touchdown passes to 5 different players, do you feel like you were watching the MVP of the league today?
Oh, well, I certainly, they don't give me a vote, but I would. There's nobody else that we want as our quarterback or that I want as our quarterback. so to be able to do that, and as the plays go through the progression, somebody asked me this week about progression and different things. I said, just throw to the guy that's open as soon as you work through your progression. And I think he did that, and some really good designs, but also some great execution.
Let me ask you this question, Adam, too, because I think it's always interesting on how you play certain games. Like Week 18, doesn't look like they're going to get the number 1 seed, but you know Vrabel knows as well as that. The MVP is a big deal. He hears it out, and of course, he's not going to, I went to FanDuel this morning at DraftKings. It's always the favorite. Do you feel it's up to him in this last game? Adam, if they're on the 4-yard line, they're not running this football into the end zone. They might light up another 5 tutties in the air against this Miami team. Do you get a push on like a betting angle for Drake May, maybe just on touchdown passes this week?
So I would expect Drake May to play. Let's start there because, again, they are still chasing the number 1 overall seed. And even if you want to say Broncos aren't going to lose to the Chargers, fine. They're still chasing the 2 seed where they are right now, because if they were to lose to the Dolphins and the Jaguars win, all of a sudden they fall down to 3. So they don't want that.
There you go.
So May and the starters are going to be out there. There is something to play for, even though they locked up the AFC East title on the bus coming back home for that last game with the Bills falling late against the Eagles. But, you know, in terms of the stats, and again, this is like narrative street versus betting market. I mean, if you guys were following the swings of the MVP award during that Ram game last night, you know, every time Stafford did anything, good or bad, and even the score changed, you were seeing wild swings in game of the odds. Honestly, it was field goals, either a blocked field goal returned for a touchdown or a field goal to tie the game, that massively swung the odds from Stafford going from like plus 200 to back to minus 115. It was all over the place. I say all of that because the Patriots just need to win this game and finish with their 14 wins and maybe get the 1 seed, but definitely get the 2 seed. May needs to, you know, not turn the ball over 3 times, be respectable, play a clean game. But whether he scores from the 4 or it's a handoff to Travion Henderson, it doesn't matter, because honestly, statistically, in basically every area, advanced metric or otherwise, May has a better case than Stafford does. If Stafford gets it, it's a lifetime achievement award.
Till he loses
That's Adam
to the
Goldman.
Dolphins.
We love him. Oh, no. There goes Joe again. One last punch. One last punch.
Just saying.
When did we become, you know, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carden Show. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways: half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
Let's end the show in style. It's how we get down on the early line. 2 hours of fun, guests, information, laughs, and also double caffeinated. You got a double espresso today. Joe led off with a hot topic here. Then we get a guest on. You try to prove your point to that guest. He tries to laugh at you here. You don't want to give him the flowers. That's good stuff, man. Embrace debate, as they like to say, which we have done. But, Joe, you know the time. You know what we like to do with this part of the show. We like to ask the people exactly where they want to go on a certain question. Here's our Fade the Public poll. SportsGrid on X, at SportsGrid, our official tag here. We asked a question today, and this is a good one because sometimes we just can't figure out what's going on in Baltimore. And the question was, should the Ravens move on from Lamar Jackson? But the question might even read like, should Lamar Jackson move on from the Ravens at this point? Because we're not getting any communication. And even watching that game against the New England Patriots, which I thought the Baltimore Ravens would win, they probably should have still, even Lamar Jackson getting hurt. Just a weird play where he just went to the ground and got brushed with the knee. Who would have thought that he'd even play and not play in the second half, let alone the following week behind that? And then the week after that, with everything on the line against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if we look at the voting here on this question, should the Ravens move on from Lamar Jackson? 56% currently live. No, it's just a down year, which I kind of agree with. But Joe, like, again, equating to my Eagles fandom, the Eagles traded Donovan McNabb to the Washington Commanders back in the day because they knew internally that he was cooked. So I put out a tweet that said also, like, if the Ravens do move on from Lamar Jackson, they know something we don't know, Joe.
Yeah, and it feels like we keep getting more and more leaks that they're at odds, the coaching staff and Lamar, and the only reason I could think of that is either A, they don't think he's taking it seriously enough. They don't believe that necessarily that maybe he is so injured he can't play. There's something going on between the coaching staff and Lamar Jackson that this could be the final straw here. So whether we like it or not, he might be wearing a different uniform sooner rather than later.
It's crazy because we're not talking about a guy that's 36 years old. Now, granted, he is in his late 20s. Feels like he's been in the NFL since he was 18 years old. There is some wear and tear, but the way it's going down is interesting because if Lamar Jackson was healthy and didn't play well down the stretch and they move on, it's like, okay, maybe a clean break's going to work for the two-time MVP. But the fact that we're not getting any information, and Joe, we'll be on the air tomorrow and also on Friday, which will be a few days from that huge game that they're going to play on Sunday night. And if we're not getting any reports, like the practice report's going to come out, but they're going to ask Harbaugh. They're going to ask that locker room, what are you thinking? We don't really have any questions. Like, that's just up in the air because you figure you'd have a definitive, hey, Lamar's going to sit this game out. If we win this one week 17, he'll be full go for week 18. That gives us the best chance to go. And if we don't get that information, something is up there in Baltimore. Let's get to some of these best bets here, Joe, today. Let's go 2-0. Bye. Rams messed around yesterday with Joe's wager. The Miami Heat took care of business. It was a team we went 1-1, which is okay. You hold standard there. You're right at water level. Today, it's time to go 2-0, Joe. The floor is yours. Where are we looking for that action?
Yeah, it's interesting, Donnie, because I'm going to go today. There's not as many NBA games, but I'm intrigued with one of these college football bowl games, the Music City Bowl here with Tennessee and Illinois. And getting the hook is available. This look ahead line, by the way, 5.5, 6. It's now sitting at 3.5, and even threes are beginning to pop up here. I would take the 3.5 as soon as you can with Illinois. This is an upper class team. This is a lot of seniors. A lot of these guys all came back this year. They're only missing one offensive lineman. Luke Altmaier there will have his running backs, will have everybody intact. And unfortunately for Tennessee, they won't. There's been a lot of defection, not just on the offensive side, including their number one wide receiver, but also on the defensive side. Feels like points are coming in this game, but it also feels like it feels like a field goal game. And the temperature, 30 degrees, that's right up Illinois' alley. I'll take the 3.5 here in this one.
The Fighting Illini. For me, I'm going to go back to the association, which treated me kindly. By the way, is the Miami Heat like the MVP for the early line, this year in 2025? Feels like every time we go to the Heat, they provide us with victories. Went last night. They absolutely clobbered getting points from the Denver Nuggets on their home court. Today, I'm going to switch it up just a little bit. The late night tonight show, 11 p.m. You know, I'll be waiting up watching this game. The Kings in town to take on the Clippers. That line, 9.5 to 10.5 across the board. I grabbed 9.5 as a favorite towards the Clippers. Usually I'd go to the Kings and say that's the way, but I just think that line is a little bit too high, which means ain't nobody want to take the Clippers here laying close to double digits. You know who's going to take them? Your boy DRS. Fade it up, baby. Give me the Clip Show tonight to win by double digits and a 2-0 night for the boys on the early line. Tomorrow, it's New Year's Eve. We'll still be here bright and early to get you caffeinated with Joe and Donnie. See you tomorrow morning on the early line.